I will just state that while we are thankful for the funding that brings this space to us, these are all of our thoughts of those that are speaking here today and not that of the funder. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your patience in navigating all of these tech concerns that we have. We are so thankful to have everybody in this particular space.
So I want to kind of dive right in. We're going to do a real brief introduction of the speakers, and then I'm going to start posing some questions. I am Stephen Samra. I'm a senior associate with C4 Innovations. It's a Boston-based woman-owned business that provides behavioral health services, and we are a partner with the CARE TA Center.
Thanks for being here. My name is Raquel Garcia. First and foremost, I am a woman in long-term recovery, and what that means for me is I had not used or drank any alcohol or misused any prescriptions in over 12 and a half years. I am based out of Castle Rock in Larkspur, Colorado. I work for C4 Innovations. Work in the world of motivational interviewing, peer recovery supports, and I'm so grateful to be here today.
Hi, my name is Des Martinez. I am previously homeless, now a unhoused advocate here in Fresno, California. I run a homeless in Fresno advocacy group here in Fresno, California. Also started a nonprofit called We Are Not Invisible that outreaches and advocates also for the unhoused community, and also the president of Fresno Homeless Union and a member of California Homeless Union and Fresno Tenants Union here in Fresno, California. So thank you guys all very much for having me.
Des, it's awesome. JC.
Good afternoon. I'm JC Smith, designated OG for this group. I'm recently retired from the VA. Spent 7 years there as a peer counselor. I am an Army Vietnam vet. I have dealt with both sides of the coin as far as mental health, behavioral health issues. I have been licensed alcohol, drug addictions counselor. I've taught domestic violence, anger management for the courts in Nashville, Tennessee. I presently reside in Mobile, Alabama, because that's the place for retired people. Got to get close to Florida. Couldn't quite do Florida. So glad to be here. Hope to make acquaintance with everybody here as well. Thank you.
JC, brother, thank you. And it's really great to have everybody here. It was a little nervy coming in, but we are here. We are ready to rock. So just real quickly, what we're trying to do today, we're going to share some experiences of homelessness and strategies for advocating for the clients, for yourself, and for your community. We're going to try to learn a little bit about best practices for crisis care service providers. And then we're going to talk a little bit about community barriers regarding crisis care for folks who are unhoused. I've got a series of questions that I'm just going to pitch to the folks here, the panelists. I probably will chime in a little bit. I have my own personal lived experience. I spent time homeless in and around Chico, Oroville, and Marysville. Understand that camp life very well. And basically what I'm hoping everybody walks away with today from this session is a better understanding of the importance of homeless advocacy, the challenges that homeless advocates face all over, and some of the strategies that can be used to either mitigate or kind of end run some of the challenges and barriers that if you've done any homeless service work, particularly direct service, you already know what we're talking about. So I'm going to start this. And by the way, please feel free to use the chat. I apologize. I should have dived right in. I know Raquel is on it. Thank you, Raquel, for that. And the chat is our way of talking about all of this while we get through the material. All right. So with that, let me dive in. Thank you again, Ande. That's awesome. Let me dive in here and ask this first question. And I'm going to pitch a lot of these to Des, because Des is a resident in California at the moment, down in and around Fresno. And the focus here is really around homelessness and crisis care in California. So it makes a lot of sense, given that I'm in Nashville, JC's in Mobile, Alabama, and Raquel is in Colorado, that we kind of go to Des, with a lot of these questions. So without further ado, Des, can you please describe your own experience of homelessness and what you think might be most helpful for mobile crisis outreach teams to understand about providing crisis care services to people who are unhoused?
Yes. Sorry if I seem a little nervous, you guys, but I am, unfortunately. So I'm gonna try my best. I believe all outreach crisis teams, it would be helpful to know that a conversation goes a very long way with us. As some people don't understand that being homeless is being alone and isolated at times, and having somebody to have a conversation with about anything means a lot to us. While I was unhoused, I felt alone, scared, very depressed. Being a female and homeless is very dangerous. You have to worry about being abused, raped, and taken advantage of. You have to make decisions like, do I steal this food for underwear and pads from the store, or do I take a chance in getting caught? Or do I go hustle, do a sex trade to get money to buy it? I'm not a criminal, and I was taught from an early age that if I didn't buy it, don't touch it, or I had to earn my keep. But I'd also been through a lot of trauma in my life of being a survivor, that there was no way in hell, sorry,
You're all right.
that I was going to sell my body to eat. So stealing a chair off of your porch and selling it for $5 so I can eat is what I chose to do. My homelessness was due to lack of DV resources in my city. Not to mention, they told me I did not fit the criteria of being chronically homeless because I just within 2 weeks recently was running from a domestic violence, which is being chronically homeless is being on the street for 1 year in order to receive resources from any organizations that have received federal grants. You have to be considered chronically homeless. I was on a fixed income due to domestic violence, which left me with a spinal fusion and years of therapy. What kept me out there was my fixed income. Rent was too high, not enough resources for somebody like me. That led to depression. Depression led to daily suicidal thoughts. So a meal and a conversation goes a very long way with us unhoused individuals that are out here. Also water, fruit, first aid, active resources, which means resources that are available immediately, mentorship, mental health services, a conversation and a friend is what I see in a crisis outreach team, and somebody who can help me carry my hope through.
Des, thank you. Let me check in with Raquel. Thoughts on that, Raquel, because I know your background as well.
Yeah, my experience around homelessness was a little bit different because I didn't appear to be that way because JC and I shared this, we were couch hoppers. So, I didn't look like I was experiencing homelessness. I was in a suburban area of Colorado where all the houses looked the same. Keeping up with the Joneses tended to be something that made me come to the end of myself rather quick, and I couldn't keep up. And unfortunately, I do have trauma from my background. My father was segregated till he was 28 years old. And unfortunately, when he was set free or allowed to become part of society, that didn't come with a lot of therapy or support services for him during that time. And unfortunately, he lifted a bottle. I learned the same habit with dealing with trauma, and I dealt with violence in a suburban community in 1994 that we had never seen when my friends were murdered when I was 16 years old at a Chuck E. Cheese. And from there, I didn't have any resources. I got a lot of labels at that time, diagnosed with many, many things, but not support, not options, not healing, not told that if I participated, maybe I could support myself. And so, my hustle was my game. That's how I survived. And I tell everybody, my life was, it was my skill set. I was good at it. My daddy used to say I could sell ice cream to an Eskimo, and I did. And I always tell everybody, same thing as Des, forgive me for the things that I did in the past to survive. but I'm here today because of those things. And now that hustle, what I've learned is it has become an asset in my life. Someone had to teach me how to use that hustle in a very different way. And so for me, I think in crisis intervention, I would go to services, even in my community. I live in a very rural part of Colorado. When I was active in use, I would go, and the scariest thing is nobody would talk to me about my life. They were quick to get me to do an intake, to process, to see if I qualified, but nobody asked me about my life. Nobody asked me what I wanted to do with my life, what were my hopes and dreams. What did I want to be when I grew up? Those questions weren't asked. They also weren't asked in my childhood. So I'm with Des in the idea that a conversation goes a long way. I got fed a lot of things, but not opportunities to meet other folks like myself that had maybe actually overcame that. I never saw anybody as a Black female overcome anything until I went to treatment. I'd never seen any Black female in my life who hadn't had a drink. And so, you know, these relationships that we create or that you create in the crisis, you know, and make it not about fixing me. Make it about getting to know me. Who am I? What did I want? What have I been through? That will be the most important part of working crisis intervention. And I get that it's scary because we all walk in with our capes and we want to save, right? But that's not always the answer. Because believe it or not, we got some skill sets, JC and Des and I and Stephen in the streets. We can do it ourselves. We just are looking for some support and guidance out there.
Raquel, it's fantastic. Thank you. JC, my friend, thoughts?
You know, if I had a female alter ego, it would be Raquel, my Rocky. She is, she's my heart. Because I mean, it's like she tells my story from another perspective. I do need to apologize. When I first came on, I had such anxiety about this webinar and getting started that I basically kind of went on automatic. And so I left out some very important aspects of my background as it concerns homelessness or the experience of homelessness. And like Raquel, I did a lot of couch surfing. My experience with homelessness really came, but with my work with with the homeless people in Nashville, homeless veterans, excuse me. I worked for 12 years with an agency called Operation Stand Down Nashville, which is a nonprofit veteran service agency. And I wouldn't have even been able to do that had I not been in recovery for about 12 years or so before that, or 15 years before that. So my experience really was when I got sober. My recovery is a huge part of my ability to discover what was going on with me. And as Raquel was saying, nobody asked. So it was really a kind of a introspective research for myself and who I was and what I had become and what I wanted to be. Nobody asked those things because, I was told at a very early age, you don't have mental health, emotional health problems as a Black man. You do not do that. You get a job. You do whatever you got to do. And just like others in this community of ours, everyone around me, everybody I knew in those circles did what I did. More or less, I was usually the more. As a matter of fact, that was my drug of choice, by the way. So I didn't mention my experience with Operation Stand Down Nashville as a veteran, as a combat veteran who has had many issues from that, and also the traumas from my experience after the service and before recovery. And then I'd like to say that, my experience with the VA as I grew up and realized that I had something to give back, something more than what I had been doing. And that has basically paved this path for me. It has given me purpose. Even retired, I'm probably working more now than I did when I was clocking in. So I really appreciate being here. I want to slow it down a little bit for myself. So if y'all see me over here looking like, Guru Smith, it is only because I'm trying to pray and get centered and grounded. Thank you very much for inviting me, Steve. Thank you.
Casey, beautiful, brother. Thank you. And all three of you just drove this central point that Des made. That is, it's about relationships. It's about walking alongside of brothers and sisters. It's about carrying their hope until they're strong enough to carry it again. This is trauma. It is serious challenge to extricate yourself from homelessness. I don't care who you are, and I don't care what your history is. It's very easy to end up homeless. It's very difficult to extricate yourself out of it. So with that, Des, let me pitch another question to you. Tell me what the three most important things are that you feel helped to end your homelessness.
Three important things that helped me end my homelessness. Being an advocate and raising awareness brought attention to my case personally. That led to being handed a TBRA voucher, which is a tenant income-based rental assistance that the city had just started here a couple of years ago. And one of the FMCOC board members had known a landlord and actually went and asked him for a favor to allow me to be moved into one of his apartments with the TBRA voucher. The sad thing, I did get into that apartment immediately. The sad thing about it is that that apartment ended up being ran by a slumlord. And so being an advocate, I spoke up for myself, which is contacting code enforcement and speaking about my experience on live social media on my page, brought awareness, which really upset him. So he tried to evict me. We went to court. I won. He could not evict me because I had a contract. But when that lease ended, he did not sign another one. So I knew that I was going to be homeless again. I did end up becoming homeless again. But during my journey of raising awareness and advocating in Fresno, I met some really good people. So they allowed me to sleep on their couch and help me eat and transport me back and forth to school. I was going to a media school at the time then also. But I didn't have to sleep on the street again, is what I'm saying. So I got to sleep on somebody's couch until I found a place. I ended up meeting somebody else, which was an owner, and they wanted to help me out, and they had an apartment. I got into that apartment on the TBRA voucher. After 3.5 years of another slumlord, thought I learned my lesson the first time, but this time I allowed it to go 3.5 years. After 3.5 years, I finally spoke up again. And of course, what happened after I spoke up to code enforcement was I ended up getting an eviction letter. But then COVID hit. So once COVID hit, it kind of saved me. COVID actually saved me from being homeless. The moratorium that they had in place, that's what saved me from being homeless again on the streets. It allowed me to go ahead and reach out to housing authority, people that I've met in many meetings, and ask them, what do I need to do in order to get a Section 8 voucher, because TBRA is only a temporary. They worked on it and worked on it and worked on it. I was accepted last year. I actually had to fight in order to get my Section 8 voucher because I was approved last year and they just sat on it. I did have to advocate for myself and tell them I felt that I was being withheld housing because of my advocacy work here in Fresno. As soon as I mentioned that, within 2 days, I had my voucher. So I was able to get my voucher and my Section 8 voucher, and I just got housed permanently again. But for me, to end my homelessness was advocacy work. It was being on social media live every single day, showing people what life is like for us on a daily basis. I mean, I showed the good, the bad, the ugly, the sad, the deaths. I did not withhold anything from my community. I wanted them to know exactly what it's like to be an unhoused individual living and trying to survive these streets of Fresno, which is a war zone. It's a war zone. And that's what helped me. But unfortunately, not everybody's an advocate, and I see their struggles because they're not known as an advocate that will stand up and face the mayor toe to toe and say and demand housing. And plus, they didn't want me sleeping on the city hall lawn again. That's something I would frequently do to get people housed. Is I will take tents to City Hall and say, this is our new home until you house us, and it gets them housed. So I think my city being in fear of the type of advocacy work that I do and raising awareness and holding accountability is what helped me get out of homelessness. Unfortunately, like I said, it's not everybody's doing that. And so they're still out there. I got friends that are still out there.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that that's happened. I mean, I totally understand it. And I can tell you that this is why people, your explanation about speaking up and then being essentially victimized because you were trying to hold people not accountable for a crime or anything, accountable for standard housing. That's it. We just want standard housing. It doesn't have to be the Ritz, but it can't be slumlord, but it's not going to work for us. And we do need to stand up for our rights. And absolutely, I don't know who just said that, but you're right. Shelley, housing is a human right. So what you're doing, Des, really, and Raquel and JC, right alongside of you, is you're advocating for, frankly, a basic human right. And I know the struggle is long, and I know a lot of folks can't advocate because they're scared, because things like this happen to you. Raquel, do you have anything to add?
I was thinking about the three things, and I was an active use and floating, and I just remember I do a lot of advocacy work for women and mothers who are struggling with substance use disorders, and also who are experiencing homelessness. And one is our fear of losing our children. So sometimes we stay in really unhealthy situations, housing situations, right? Which I did. I stayed active. I was sober, but I was with an actively using husband because I wasn't going to be able to care for myself any other way, right? So women trying to find housing for me and my 4 children, the things that really changed my ability to thrive and not just survive. Surviving, I got down. I'm a hustler. You ain't teaching me anything. We got on these streets. You're not going to help me in that arena, but it was giving me stability outside of a domestic area where I had a safe place to live that I wanted to put my children in. Some of the places they wanted me to take my kids, I was just going to stay drunk with the husband, to be honest, because my options were less. And I can survive this. What I can't survive is that. I know that about myself as a woman. The other thing is community changed for me. Getting in the recovery community, changing that, because I was in that subculture when I was using an active and the couch surfing. It was conducive to what I was doing, and so a new community and engagement helped me, and opportunity. I stopped learning a lot of things when I was 16 years old, when the trauma hit my life, and opportunities to educate myself, opportunities to go to school, to make a living wage. That right now, if something, by the grace of God, I'm still married to my husband, but if something were to happen for the first time ever, I actually could take care of myself and my children. And I can't tell you the confidence that comes from that as a woman, as a Black woman. I'm in a very red, very conservative area of Colorado. feels so empowered. I can feel it in my skin talking to you right now, what it feels like to do that. And so, offering opportunities that are less than, I used to be a landlord too, and I'd walk into some of those places and like, I'm not putting people here. We have running water. I want my toilet to flush. I want my oven to work. Simple things that seem like some people treat us as though we should just be so grateful. You should be so grateful you've even got a roof. No, it's a human right. I should have an oven that actually cooks the food that I've paid for, and that doesn't spoil in my refrigerator because you won't come fix it. Those type of issues. So I'm so grateful for the advocacy work that you do, Des, because it's so important. And I agree. One of my greatest things that I get to do now is speak up for women, speaking up for those that are unhoused, being really creative. I've done yoga with folks in the middle of a park before because they can't get access to services. Because my organization, I run a virtual recovery community that was born out of COVID. How do we touch those that are unhoused? How do we get services? Part of what I was reading yesterday is, we have a lot of headspace. You have no idea what it is. Survival is 90% of what I'm doing with my brain every day. 10% is probably the healing and moving forward piece, because the survival piece is what I do every single day. So everybody wants to come in and sometimes offer me so much that I don't even know how to sort it. Little things, one thing at a time, was really important for me. Not trying to give me so much, I get into overwhelm. Be patient with me, one step at a time. So those are the things that are really important for me. Opportunity to learn and move and build myself, community, and stable housing that I could afford, especially for women, safe, adequate housing.
Wow, Raquel, fabulous, fabulous. Thank you. JC?
Is there some way that we can meld this video into Raquel's video? Like we could both become like alter ego things or something? Because everything she said, I'm there. I'm like, geez, I do have one perspective though, and that was, if you notice that the word fear pops up a lot when we talk about our experience and how do we end our experience, or how do we succeed in life, or how do we change that lifestyle? And see, that was the driving force, and it is also what I use today in my advocacy. For me, as before I was in recovery, no, let me say what got me into recovery was realizing that I remember an old guy in the program saying, you're an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. And I thought that was the cutest thing until I realized that he was talking about me. And it was so rooted in the truth. In my addictive experience, I was always looking after just me. It was about me. It was about when, where, why, how am I going to get what I need for me right now? It was not about any investment in the future. My future was like how far I could get, to right now. And so that lifestyle change that Rocky spoke about, for me, came through my recovery. And in that recovery, I learned this process of delayed gratification, this process of there is something else that should be first in my life. I'm not a very religious person, but I am very spiritual. And in that, I'd like to say that I had to come off the podium, get off the cross, so to speak, because a couple people told me that too. And let the right person be the number one. Now, the thing that might really fool a lot of people in that situation, in that formula, is that I became number two. Now, in my early recovery, I was not number two yet because I wanted to help everybody. I wanted to share this great gift and I wanted to lift everybody up. And I ended up suffering for that, being the caretaker and trying to do everything for everybody and not thinking about myself. And so I had to realize it had to be 1, 2, 3, which I love it to be very simple. My way of ending my homelessness, and it was not just the material or the structural aspect of homelessness, it was up here as well. And that was that I had to have a higher power, number one, God. I had, for me, God. I had to have myself as number two. I need to take care of me before I look to take care of anybody else. And then it was everybody and everything else. And in doing that, I found that I could use that experience, those mistakes, what I thought were mistakes, as tools and gifts and blessings that I could carry to others. When we talk about the fear, my advocacy has really been in the ability to instill fear in people who are not homeless or not in that experience. I was great at outreach. I was probably the best they ever had. And I say that not because of my ego, but because of the economics of what I did. I basically, and Steve can attest to it, brought hundreds of thousands of dollars into Operation Stand Down Nashville. And I did that by going out to the community, the businesses, the industry, and I would say to them, and I'd always begin with this one statement: everybody in this auditorium is probably only 2 to 3 paychecks away from being homeless themselves. And boy, would them wallets open up. It was the economics of it. It was the fear that motivated them to act. And that's how I believe that I can do the most damage or help, whichever way you want to see it, in terms of advocating for homelessness.
JC, I can attest to everything you just said as being gospel truth. I spent a lot of time with you side by side. I learned a lot from you as well. I mean, one of the things I want to say is, you know, what you're hearing from folks who've experienced these things, self-included, is that many of us have realized as we've learned about advocacy and we've, you know, been successful, and it's not easy to be successful in extricating yourself both from homelessness and entering recovery around substance misuse or, you know, a mental health challenge or all of the above. But all of us have taken the very worst liabilities of our lives and we have turned them into the greatest assets that we have. And that's what we're sharing with all of you. And so, you know, the session started a little bit late. And I know that we're going to bump up against the time issue because, you know, there's a number of questions. There are 2 questions I'm going to pose that I really need us to get through, folks, okay? And we've got about 15 minutes to do it. So if we can be as succinct as we can, I think we can get through both of them. So here's the first question. And Des, I'm pointing right at you again. Please share your own strategies for advocating, for getting your voice heard, for clients, for self and community as it relates to that crisis care service delivery for the unhoused population.
My own strategies for advocating for the unhoused community, also the low-income community, is basically film everything, sharing testimonies. My strategy for getting my voice heard started with filming testimonies, putting them out there so people understand that individual and how they got out there themselves. Also taking the unhoused community down to city council meetings, to board of supervisor meetings, taking them to the state capitol to talk to assembly members. That's the only way we can get our voices heard here in Fresno, unfortunately, is by putting it on social media. And then our voices finally get heard. Going into city council meetings and board of supervisor meetings and going to the state capitol is another way. But my experience for my strategy is going live. Going live. That's the only thing that's getting our voices heard here in Fresno with the advocates, with the unhoused community. We actually have to go live and tell our testimonies in order to be heard. Another strategy, like I mentioned before, was if they don't listen to us, when I call city council and I say, I have a mother with 2 kids out here that will be sleeping behind a dumpster, I need your help. If they do not respond to me immediately, they know they have like 15 minutes with Des, I automatically go live. And I tell them, like, if I don't hear from you in the next 10, 15 minutes, I will be on City Hall lawn with the family and some tents. And I'm going to publicize that I reached out to you. I'm going to publicize that you did not respond to me. And I'm going to publicize and ask the community for money to put this family into a motel because you will not respond to me. These are children. That's the only strategy I have left here in Fresno, California, because there's absolutely no resources. So that's my strategy, is document, demand. I'm not trying to threaten city council. I'm not saying to threaten anybody. Sometimes we have to have that stern voice of, I'm not going to put up with this. No, God, I'm so sorry, you guys. I got a potty mouth. I'm not going to put up with this mess anymore. Either you contact me right now or this is what's going to happen. So I've done that for so many years that now when I call them, they're literally on it. They are literally, because they're afraid. They hate my mayor, or their mayor here hates bad publicity. That's one thing I learned. If you learn what gets to them at city council and your mayor, that's something I utilize too. I know he dislikes bad publicity because he's going for governor. So I basically say, this is what I'm going to do. Bad publicity is what they don't like. And that's the only strategy I have here that is available to us, is our own phone.
Yes. Let me ask something of you, because you and I have talked about this strategy before. Can you talk a minute about the retaliation that happened to you in a city council meeting as a result of this type of advocacy?
Yes, for about 7 years, I have been shoving my phone in the faces of every sweep. So a sweep is, if you guys don't know what a sweep is, when the police show up and basically take and destroy, they seize, they confiscate, and then they destroy personal items that other people they feel are garbage. During this, I noticed that I started filming a lot live. I would literally go live. I would be in the officer's face. I would tell them, this is against the law. You can't take personal property. You cannot destroy it. You can get sued for this. So the more I went in people's faces for 7 years, my phone has literally been in cops' face for about 7 years. Recently in January, I had again went to another sweep. And when I showed up, all the unhoused were gone, but the code enforcement was there and the city sanitation people were there. I had a couple questions. The officer told me to go ask the supervisor of code enforcement. Upon reaching the code enforcement, I asked him a couple questions. He said he was not going to speak to me. And I said, sir, I'm trying to talk to you. He ran to the police officer and said, she's harassing me. But it was kind of like comical because the police officer told me to go talk to him. So upon telling the officer I was just going to talk to him like you instructed me to do, the 17-year veteran code enforcement supervisor literally grabbed my hand and my camera, twisted my wrist so I would stop recording him. He did this battery assault, whatever they want to call it, in front of an officer. So therefore I had to do, my PTSD went off the charts. Like when he touched me, as soon as he touched me, I could not control myself. I felt attacked. I felt trauma came back. It was an unwanted touch. And when you've been through a lot of trauma in your life, you do not want anybody to touch you unless it's an invitation to touch you. if I don't reach out to hug you, don't touch me. It's just a trauma response, and it put me in a mind frame of attack. And that's what I ended up doing, because as soon as he touched me, I didn't run, I attacked. I was in fear because I had now attacked this man, a supervisor, a city employee, in front of an officer. But the officer assured me, I would be okay. He attacked me by him touching me first, by me responding the way I did, he says, was basically protecting myself, that I wouldn't get in trouble. So the guy got arrested and we had court. But the next day, the city attorney and them, I guess, were finally fed up with me after 7 years of being in their face, that they made a whole ordinance to stop me from going into sweeps. So they said, they put in the ordinance that you can't go past the caution tape. We're going to put caution tape up. You can't go past that. It's going to be $250 fine, or you're going to spend 10 days in jail. And I told him, this is not going to work. It's against my civil rights. If you guys go ahead and pass this, I will be back with attorneys. They went ahead and said, oh, well, because what homeless people sue the city, So I went in there, they passed it 7-0. I was shocked. 7-0, they passed it. So I was like, okay, I told you what I was going to do. So I searched for attorneys and help. ACLU got involved. Thank you, ACLU, because if they wouldn't have gotten involved, they got a lot of other people. We ended up taking this to court, in a federal court, and just freaking won last month in federal court, that they are not allowed to violate my civil rights, and they have to. Tomorrow, I'm so excited, because tomorrow I get to sit inside City Hall and hear them redact every single thing they put in the ordinance against me. I am going to sit in there tomorrow, you guys, and enjoy that moment as they read it. And I'm probably going to film it live, knowing me. So that's what happened. I say keep on standing up and fighting, but the resources that I needed, like ACLU, thank God that they were there, because I would never have the money to fight my city. And that's one thing we need to think about when people have their rights violated. And there's something that this is not right. You keep standing up for yourself, even if you're standing alone, because sometimes people are afraid to stand behind you because of retaliation, especially in my city. But you're never alone. You do have that support in other cities and other states. So yeah, that's my anti-Des ordinance story. So tomorrow, you guys, I'm going to be celebrating at City Hall.
Des, that is just an amazing story. And I also know, Des has also shared being just publicly attacked in a city council meeting, and told that there was somebody who shared or said that Des was exploiting children by bringing them with their homeless parents to to City Hall. So what I'm trying to share is that if folks believe that nobody's paying attention, or that the folks who are impotent, there's nothing that we can do about it, we have a bit of a problem with that. What it says is that we're not valuable enough, we're not worth enough for somebody to care at the level that that would be required to help somebody overcome this. So Des, thank you. Raquel, if you can just chime in briefly. JC, I'll do the same thing, and then we'll try to get that second question done.
No, I mean, it's just showing up. I actually just last night found out that I get to become part of the BAAC here in Colorado. They're redoing the way they adjust money coming in from the federal government. So I try to get seats at the tables where the decisions are made. And yesterday, and I'm kind of get to celebrate with you too, Des, we're gonna have a little party after this about those of us who've overcome, who actually get to sit at some of these tables and have some triumphs. And I am glad that I get to sit as one of the first first, well, actually, the council's never even been around before. So I get to be a part of history as one of the first members of the Behavioral Administration's Accountability Council for the state of Colorado, as a woman in long-term recovery who's out and open with her story. I'm so excited for that. So that's what it is. We keep showing up. We keep asking for seats at the tables so the people that we serve are served well. And we don't take like it's okay that we just made it out alive and we should be grateful for the rest of our lives. And we keep showing up, not only for those we serve, but for ourselves. Because I like to remind everybody, when you keep talking about them, you are actually talking about me. And so I don't separate myself from the communities that I serve. And even in Douglas County, they were going to set up a camp that was going to be something that was the city wanted to do, and the community said no. So I'm going to go and be an advocate for that in our community, because that means the city is actually listening. But our community members are off. So we're going to do some advocacy work and some education about what that looks like for us as a community. So we keep showing up. That's what I do. I keep showing up so I can be successful in advocating for the people in my community, because when you're advocating for your neighbors, you're advocating for yourself.
Raquel, I love this piece about when you're talking about them, talking about us too.
Yeah,
JC?
women, my favorite is when you're doing women in recovery and I go, I'm going to get some housing for women. And they go, oh, Raquel, you want to do women and children? It's so much. And I go, you're talking to me, right? Do you realize when you say that you're actually speaking to me? Did you say we're so much? Like, I think we're just asking for basic human rights. And so when you tell me it's too much, I think that's exactly where I need to be.
Yeah, I think so too. Thank you. JC?
Des and Rocky, you guys are awesome. I just wish I had the kind of money that I could just fly in and be there to help, to support, just to get some of that energy you guys got. Because I mean, I waited so long to see this kind of energy, this kind of spirit. But anyway, in terms of the question about getting heard, so to speak, you guys kind of heard my focus. My focus has always been, I learned very early on, because my mother was very much a political advocate. I learned this process we like to call judo. Of course, judo as a martial art is basically using a opponent's strengths against them. And so that's why I kind of like the economic outreach that I do. If I can convince people who have that by investing in the people who have not, they will profit from it, or they will save their own selves from their own demise, as Des has aptly shown them, you get action. I had to make the homeless, who were, to those that have, the homeless were invisible. I had to make the homeless visible. And in order to do that, I had to make it personal, because as they're driving down the street and there's a homeless guy on the corner, they don't see that guy. Now, if you happen to be walking down the street wondering what you're going to do with your life today, you're going to notice that guy. You know, where am I going to stay today? Well, I wonder where he stays. You know, wonder how he's getting along. So when you bring that personal touch to it, you add that modicum of fear and also of profit. I'll put it to you this way. I wrote this down too, because I thought about it today, and I said, well, I've got my own little theory now. You remember it was Jimi Hendrix who quoted, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, then the world will know peace. Well, I wanted it to be, for me, when the power of human rights overcome the power of the privileged few's rights, then we will live in a sheltered, health care provided for, the community that is what we could have today. It's not as if it was unattainable. These things are very attainable and profitable for those that are privileged. You know, it's funny that during COVID that Des talked about, now I'll make this real short. During COVID, the richest 1% increased their riches by 100%. That's incredible. You know, we're talking about guys that had, 50 billion now have 100 or 200 billion with a B. So it's it don't take but a small modicum of those kinds of numbers to feed the entire population, to house the entire population. But you got to make it profitable. You got to make it an investment for them. And I think that is the way we get changes made. I think that's the way we can get people who normally would not advocate for those they don't see into making them visible and making them worth a second look.
JC, Jesus, that's beautiful, brother. Thank you.
Thank you so much to everybody that brought information and heart to this session. Thank you, JC. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Des.